we are going to start the broadcast. Endeavour Solutions and ImageTag would like to welcome you to today's event, Life Hacking More Value from Your Dynamics ERP Investment. And our agenda for today is as follows. We will have a little introduction of Endeavour and ImageTag, talk a little about the distractions and obstacles and some of the inefficiencies of the two, and why life hacking for Dynamics is being solved with QuickTag. And then John Michaels, our VP of Worldwide Sales and Marketing, will be doing the QuickTag demo.
So, hey everybody, this is John Michaels. Since we're having some difficulty with the audio with Steve Ewing from Endeavour, we're going to actually, we'll skip these slides for now, and we'll circle back to them as soon as we can figure things out with Steve, and that way we can just continue on with today's program for now.
Thanks, John. So ImageTag, we are a proven documented decision solutions provider. We've been around since 1997. And since 1997, we have amassed 1,000 customers in 12 countries, and we were the first fully embedded dynamic solution back in 2004. And since that time, we have over 300,000 users worldwide with an annual renewal support rate of 94%. And that's significant because it says those who we've sold our product to, they have continually to return to renew their agreements with us. So what is life hacking? Obviously, you can read the definitions. What I like to point to the Wikipedia definition, it's basically a shortcut, a way to increase productivity and efficiencies in all walks of life. Or better put, anything that solves a problem in a clever, non-obvious way. Some of the life hacks focus on work-life habits. As you can see, there are several well-known folks there. For example, Don Peppers, he says no matter what time zone he's in, he works out before every day. He gets his day started. And one that's pretty much a little more well-known, Richard Branson of Virgin Atlantic, he talks about managing your mobile and don't let it manage you. Some life hacks are a little more mundane or ordinary and sometimes even a little silly. As you can see from this picture, I would have never thought of this, using a toaster sideways to grill grilled cheese. I'm not sure about you, but this looks like something I might even try one day. But some of the best combine existing tools that we have into to modify some of our existing habits, like our smartphones. We actually use our smartphones in the business with QuickTag. As you know, as salespeople, we're constantly on the road and having to put together expense reports. Well, we've developed a quick app, and that quick app allows us to take pictures at the point of contact and send those quick apps into those receipts into a email box, and allows us to process our receipts relatively easily. So, you know, it's kind of like many of us thinking of multitasking and how it's supposed to improve efficiencies, but in actuality, multitasking really is a part of the problem. And I mean that by the average person looks at their cell phone 150 times a day. Think about it. The interruptions that occurs when that happens. And the impact of that is huge because we can't focus anymore. And it says, you know, one study that I discovered says the average person spends only 3 minutes on a task before interruption. And the impact of that is we forget what we were working on, you know, after that interruption occurs. So, you know, why can't we focus better? Well, it's pretty simple. The interruptions really impact our day. So when we think about QuickTag, one of our missions is to vastly improve the quality of your work life with tools that impact the business process. And as you can see from our vision, we've developed an approach that says one system for everything document related, regardless of department, document, or touch point. Now the graphic on the right basically says we're using our QuickTag platform, which is our simple, powerful capture component. And on top of that, we build Quick Apps, which is a set of reusable codes that we prepackage. And each of those prepackaged applications, such as Quick Expense, Quick Payables, which John will demo today, has 3 attributes. It includes workflow and intelligent routing, document association, and reporting. With this approach, we can support any department that is running Dynamics GP, regardless of location or regardless of application. And that department doesn't have to be dependent upon Dynamics as well. So QuickTag can be used for any department for Dynamics or any department that is outside of Dynamics. John will show you the impact of QuickTag and why it's significant. And I like to go from the bottom up. It's going to help you resolve exceptions. So you can focus on resolving exceptions by automating the rules, delivering self-service, and minimizing some of the interruptions that we talked about, and QuickTag being a very good tool for life hacking. I'm going to turn this to John, and John is going to now take you through the demo for QuickTag. John?
Craig, I just need you to make me presenter.
John is now the presenter, everyone. I apologize.
All right. Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are about to see. So the application we're going to show you today is what we call Quick Payables. And Quick Payables is a purchase-to-pay automated application that sits on top of the QuickTag platform, and it's designed to make those of you in accounts payable in your life much easier. And so I'm sure you guys have seen document management-oriented payable solutions before. This one's going to be a little bit different in a few ways. And what I'd like to do is start the demo by just kind of showing you how documents get into the system and all the different ways that that can happen. So right off the bat, you probably can see an email on my screen. What I'd like for you to imagine for a moment is that this email belongs to one of your vendors. So your vendor basically has an email, or I'm sorry, an invoice that they're going to be sending you. They've created an email, and in the to field of that email is going to be a designated email address that's tied specifically to your QuickTag server. So when it shows up on your Exchange server knows to hand that off to QuickTag, and QuickTag will go ahead and process that invoice. So it's as simple as letting your vendors know what that special email address is that QuickTag is going to use to process invoices. And right off the bat, you can eliminate a tremendous amount of human interaction just by having your vendors email their invoices directly into your QuickTag system. The other method is you can actually set up a web portal, if you like, and you can have your vendors log into it and then submit their invoices that way. But what we found is that that takes a few extra steps, basically bringing up their browser and logging in. And so as a result, what we found is more effective is asking vendors to simply just email the invoices to you. Now, there's always going to be some small percentage of vendors that aren't going to want to email their invoices. They'd rather actually send you a physical copy. And so in that case, of course, when your physical invoices show up, all you have to do is take them over to your copy machine and scan them directly to QuickTag. So let's go ahead and send this email, and off it goes. And then what I'm going to do is bring up my QuickTag client, which is a browser-based. This is actually running in Internet Explorer. And what you're looking at is the work queue page of the QuickTag user client. Now, I'm logged in as an accounts payable person. Over here on the right, you can see the name of the person who's logged in. Just the generic name that we use for accounts payable people is Indexer. Don't pay attention necessarily to the name that we're using. But now we've put on the hat of the accounts payable person at your company. And what you're going to see is a bunch of different documents sitting in the work queue. Now, these documents are going to be a variety of different document types. You can see some of these here that say ICE 1. ICE is actually our Intelligent Cloud Extraction service. So what is Intelligent Cloud Extraction? It simply means that when invoices are emailed in to you, or when they're scanned in using one of your copy machines, or even if they're just uploaded directly to QuickTag, they will go up to the cloud where we have a service that will extract the data from those invoices and then project that data, or transmit is probably a better word, transmit that data back down to your QuickTag system so that you don't have to do any data entry. So the end result is that, as you can see on the right-hand side, here's the image of the invoice, and I'll just kind of click on a couple of these. And on the left-hand side, you can see all of the information about that invoice has already been extracted and filled out. So everything from the vendor name, as you can see, Bloomington County, the document number, which is being pulled from over here, the document date, and the purchases amount. So all of that information is being extracted for you automatically. All you have to do in this particular use case is take a look to make sure that the data that you're looking at matches the data on the document. If for some reason there was an error here, and there should very rarely be an error, we're using incredibly high-quality OCR technology to accomplish this. All you have to do is just click in the field and edit it if you want to. There will reach a point where the cloud OCR service reaches virtually 100% accuracy with the invoices that you're submitting. And at that point, you can even bypass this whole, what we call stare and compare process, and just have the invoice go directly to the first person in the workflow based on your business rules. So in our use case today, what we're going to have happen here is accounts payable, again, is going to take a look at the invoice, make sure everything looks right. In this case, it does. They're going to submit the invoice. It's then going to go to a department manager who's responsible for coding the invoice with the appropriate GL codes. Once the appropriate GL codes are attached to the invoice, it's then going to route for approval. And for the sake of time and expediency, in our demo environment, there's only one level of approval. It's going to go directly to the CFO, and the CFO will go ahead and approve the invoice. So let me go ahead and find an invoice I want to work with. We'll use this one from Beaumont over here. So Beaumont Construction, $5,656. You can see, again, all the information is filled out. If I like, I can use the comments field, and I can leave a message for any of the users downstream. This would be sort of akin to putting a Post-it note on the document or writing a note on the document itself if you were actually doing this entire workflow in the physical world, right? If you were manually shuffling paper around. So I'm going to let the next person know to please code as soon as possible, and I'll submit. The document disappears from my work queue, and it brings up the next document in line. And so what's happening now is that the QuickTag workflow engine is sort of reclaiming that document, taking a look at it, and saying, okay, I've got an invoice here. I know what company it's assigned to. It's been assigned to Fabricam. I know what the vendor ID is, because it actually extracted the vendor name and then did a lookup into your GP system to automatically fill out your vendor ID so that you didn't have to. And based on the dollar amount and all of your business rules that you're going to set up in the system, it knows now to route that document to the department manager for coding. So let's go ahead and log in as department manager. I'll just bring up another instance of QuickTag here. And down on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see there's actually an email notification that's going to arrive for the department manager. So let's just click on that real quick. In the subject, you'll see new invoice for GL coding, and I apologize if that's a little bit small and you can't see the text, but this is just notifying the department manager, hey, you've got a new invoice that's shown up in the system, and you need to GL code it. So all the information about that invoice, which was extracted automatically using ICE, is going to show up here in the body of the document, in the body of the email, and then from here I can click this button and it will log me directly into QuickTag, or I can just do it from here. So using our very fun generic names here in QuickTag, I'll log in as department manager, and it'll take me directly to my work queue as department manager. So now again, take my accounts payable hat off, put on the hat of my department manager, the person who's responsible for coding these invoices. And if I just close this really quick, you can see all the data about the documents that are in my work queue are going to show up here. If I want to bring the preview pane back, I can just say open here, and up comes the invoice that we're working with. So again, all the data has been filled out, okay? And then in the comments it says please code as soon as possible. So I know my job is to code the invoice. So the way that you code in QuickTag is you have the GL distribution here on the left. Now you'll notice in the field below it says to code selected. So what's happened here is that the way we've set up QuickTag in this particular demo environment is now that it knows that Beaumont Construction is the vendor, it will automatically do a lookup into your GP system and extract the default GL codes if you're using default GL codes, and it's going to populate those in this modal box here so that on the off chance that I actually want to use the defaults, it's already done for me. So again, the goal of QuickTag is to make your life super easy, minimize human interaction, minimize data entry. Now, if I want to override these codes, I certainly can. Maybe repairs and maintenance isn't the code that I want to use on the debit side of things. So I'll just remove that. I'll bring up my chart of accounts, and let's see. I'm going to bring up equipment. So I'm going to use the code for machinery and equipment. I'll just double-click, and then over here in the dollar amount, I'm just going to say 5656, and I'll go ahead and submit. So now my debits and my credits match. It allowed me to go ahead and proceed with the coding. I can add as many codes as I want, by the way. I can bring up company defaults. It makes it very easy for me to go ahead and process the coding using the GL codes that are coming directly from GP. So at this point, I can either override the last comment or I can append to it. I'll just override it and say, please approve as soon as possible, and I'll submit it again. Again, the document disappears from my work queue. The QuickTag workflow engine takes over, takes a look at the document, and says, okay, still have an invoice, still for Beaumont, but now the coding procedure has been completed. So what's next in the business rules? Well, once the document has been fully coded, then it, again, as I mentioned earlier, needs to go on for approval. In the workflow matrix that we've set up within QuickTag, the approval goes to the CFO. And again, there's only one level of approval. The CFO approves, and then you'll see what happens from there. In your environment, you can have as many levels of approval as you want, and those approvals can be purely conditional. In other words, you can have one level of approval for maybe invoices that are $1,000 and under. You can have two levels of approval for invoices that are, say, $1,000 to $10,000. And then anything over $10,000, you can have three levels of approval. And I'm just giving you an example. You can make those dollar thresholds anything you want. You can make the logic around how many levels of approval be tied to anything you want. It doesn't have to be tied to dollar amount. It can be tied to the company, the GP company that invoice is destined for. It can be the location. It can be the GL codes. Anything, any of the data attached to that document can actually drive your business rules. So let's go ahead and leave Department Manager behind, and we're going to log in as the CFO. Now you'll see when we log in as CFO, CFO's a busy person, and she's got a lot of different documents that she needs to work with. So when we come into the work queue here for CFO, right off the bat, you're going to see a lot of documents, and you're going to see a lot of different types of documents. Under document type, you can see she's got contracts, she's got employee requisitions to approve, offer letters that are going out the door, checks that need to be paid. What I want to do is basically focus exclusively right now on my invoices that have been GL coded. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go up to this little click bar here, and you can see all the different document types are going to show up in the top. And I'm just going to select the document types that I want to work with. So I can be very purpose-driven in my work queue, filter out all the clutter. And in a way, this is a little bit of a life hack in and of itself because it minimizes my distractions, and it gives me exactly the content that I want to work with at this point in time. So you can see all the different documents here. This one's got a date of today, and so that's very likely the document we're working with. So let's go ahead and open here and make sure. Sure enough, there it is, the Beaumont invoice for 5656. Again, all the data has been filled out here on the left-hand side. I've got two codes. And before I approve this, I might actually want to take a look and see how this has been coded. So I'm just going to right-click and say Show GL Distributions. And then down here in the bottom, we're going to get a little modal that's going to pop up that's going to show me the debits and credits that Department Manager filled out for this particular invoice. And, of course, accounts payable is credited. And if you remember, I debited machinery and equipment. So that all looks good to me. At this point, my options as the approver in the workflow is I can, of course, approve it. I can reject it. And if I reject it, I'll get a box that pops up that asks me for a reason. You cannot reject a document in QuickTag in QuickTag workflow without actually specifying a reason code. So this is where I would go ahead and specify the reason code. I'll cancel out of that. Or if for some reason I actually want to delegate the approval of this document because there's somebody else who has more knowledge of it, I can click on Delegate, and it'll give me a list of approvers, if you want to think of it that way. So based on security rights and based on the workflow matrix you have set up, these are the people that would have the ability to approve the document that I could then assign to. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and approve it, and I'll show you what happens next. So I approve. The document disappears again from my work queue. Now, again, the workflow engine is going to pick the document back up, and the QuickTag workflow engine is going to say, are there any other approvers that are necessary here based on the company's business rules? As I mentioned earlier, the answer to that is no. There's only one level of approver, or of approval, I should say. And so once the CFO has approved the document, it's actually going to take that invoice and all of its data, and it's going to stage it inside of GP in what we call the QuickTag work queue inside of GP. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave QuickTag, close out my email here, and I've got GP already loaded up. We're running GP 2013 over here. So for those of you that are using 2013 or 2010, this interface will look very familiar to you. In order to get to the QuickTag work queue, I just need to bring up some sort of a transaction screen. So I'll go ahead. I'm already in the purchasing module, so I'll pull up the transaction entry screen, and all of the QuickTag functionality as it's embedded within GP is going to show up here in the additional menu. So when I click on the additional menu, I've got all of these choices which are related to the functionality that I get from QuickTag. So what I want to do now is find that invoice that we've been processing all along here in our demo, and I'll view the work queue. When I click on that, it's going to bring up any approved invoices. You can see here invoices. These are going to be any invoices that have gone through the approval cycle. And sure enough, here's one with my, my Beaumont vendor. And if I mouse over on the left-hand side, it's going to give me all of the metadata that was extracted by the ICE service. If I want to view the document, all I have to do is double-click, and it'll actually show me the document in a PDF viewer. And when I'm ready, I can go ahead and I can vouch. I can create a voucher from this document. By the way, I can select multiple documents simultaneously and assign them all to a batch if I want to, or I can work with one at a time. In this case, I'll just do this one. In order to assign this, invoice to a voucher, I need to click the Create button, and that's going to give me the opportunity to pull up a list of all of my open batches, or if I want to create a batch on the fly, I can go ahead and just type the name of the batch right here. In this case, we're just going to use my name for the batch, and just keep an eye on the voucher number here. This is going to be 654, the last 3 digits. Let's click Yes. Again, it's going to disappear from my work queue, and what's happened now is we've essentially populated a new payables voucher automatically within GP. So let's go ahead and pull that up. We'll just find 654. You can see voucher 654 Beaumont. I'm going to double click on that to load it. So here is the voucher. It's been completely populated. I didn't have to key anything in. You guys are probably wondering, are the GL codes there? So let's take a look at that. We hit distributions, open it up. Here's my accounts payable and my machinery and equipment. Everything looks good there. And then the last question you might have is, well, where's the invoice? And that's the beauty of QuickTag. Because it's embedded directly within GP, I can actually go to the additional menu. I can say View Documents, and any documents that I've tagged to this particular voucher are going to show up. So here's the invoice that we've been working with all along. Remember, this is the invoice that your vendor emailed in at the very beginning of this demo. Okay, so we extracted the data. It went to accounts payable for just a quick once-over. It went to the department manager for coding. It went to the CFO for approval. And then right now it's sitting in GP, all batched up and waiting for you to go ahead and post it and pay it. So very minimal human interaction. Everything happened on an automated basis. We've minimized data entry. And if I have any other documents that I want to actually tag to this voucher as supporting documentation, I can do that directly from within GP. Simply hit the additional menu, say Tag Documents. I'll get this barcoded dialog box here. The barcode is there for any paper documents that you might scan. So you'll notice there's going to be a 9-digit number that's going to show up here in the dialog box. That's going to correspond to a set of barcode labels that are sitting on my desk in a dispenser. You get those dispensers and those barcode labels from us. You would just affix the barcode to the lead page of the invoice or lead page of whatever document it is that you're trying to tag to this voucher. So it's just a simple little label that you pop out of the dispenser and put it on the document. If you want, you can leave a comment here, and when you click OK, it's actually going to create what's called a reservation inside of the QuickTag system for this barcode number tied to this voucher. So then when you go to the copy machine at your convenience and you scan that document in, you'll scan it to QuickTag. QuickTag software will read the barcode that you stuck to the document. It'll find the barcode number. It'll find this barcode number in the QuickTag system, and it'll find the reservation, and it will replace the reservation with an actual image of the document that you've scanned. Now, I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm actually going to show you how you would attach an electronic document in this case. So maybe what I want to do is I want to show a packing slip just to prove, in case our auditors want to know, did you actually receive these goods when you paid this invoice? I want to attach the packing slip. So I can either browse out and I can find the packing slip. So we'll go to sample documents. Here they are. Payables, GP, and let's see, find a packing slip. There's one. Boom, packing slip. It asks me, are you sure you want to attach? I say yes. And what QuickTag has essentially done is it's captured the voucher number, it's captured the vendor ID, it's captured the company name, the document number, and then assigned an electronic barcode number to that packing slip that I just browsed out and grabbed. So now when I hit additional view documents, it's not only going to bring up the invoice that was emailed in by the vendor, but it's also going to bring up the packing slip that I just tagged as well. So you can see the original invoice is here if I want to look at that, and if I want to look at the packing slip, all I have to do is double-click. If at any point in time I want to email either or both of these documents, I can select, I can click on the email button, and it will allow me to email that document out. So for example, if we paid a voucher and we paid $56.56, and then Beaumont calls us up and says, hey, you short paid that invoice. It was actually for $5,800. Well, you can say, well, that's not the invoice that you sent us. And they said, well, I've got an invoice here for $5,800. And you'll say, well, I've got one for $56.56. It'll be in your inbox in 13 seconds. You can literally just say additional, view documents, find the invoice, say email, and send it off to the accounts receivable department at Beaumont. Problem solved. So as you can see, QuickTag is, it's a very easy, powerful document management system. It's not just for payables. The example that we gave you guys today is very much organized around payables. There's actually more to the story around payables. We've also got a check approval service where when all of your checks are run, it will show up in somebody's work queue. They can review all the checks either pre-print or post-print, and they can approve those checks before they actually go out the door. So there's that element to QuickTag. But the best part about QuickTag is it is a document management platform, which means that we've got commercial quick apps that we've built on top of it, like Quick Payables. Another one that I'll mention today is Quick Expense. I think very early on in the demo, Craig was mentioning how we actually use Quick Expense here at ImageTag. When we travel and we've got expenses, we use our smartphones, we snap pictures, it goes into the QuickTag system, and then the process of getting those receipts approved, bundled into expense reports, and then processed directly into our accounting system, that's all part of the Quick Expense Quick App. We can also build custom Quick Apps based on what your specific use cases and needs are. Again, it's not just an accounts payable solution. It's really a document management solution for any of the departments in your organization that find themselves document burdened or burdened by inefficient business processes. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Craig. Craig, I didn't know if you had any more slides that you wanted to show.
No, we don't. We have a few slides, but Steve is now joined in, so we're going to let Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Steve, we can.
Okay, perfect. So thanks, Craig and John, for the demo, and sorry about the technical challenges at the start. We're going to open up the lines for any Q&A. If you look at the right hand of the screen, you can also type your questions in the chat box, which we'll receive and we'll respond to them. Alternatively, with the lines being opened up, we're going to make it available for you to also post those questions. But while some of you may be thinking through what you may want to ask the team, I did want to make note of the reason why we looked at working with ImageTag and with the QuickTag product is that over the past year, many of our clients have asked how they can improve their payables process, as it seems many organizations seem to continue to struggle with keeping documents, invoices, and even emails in a very manual way. So really, this is a first of a series of webinars and value-added events that we're looking to provide our clients on a regular basis over the next year. And we'll be interested to get your feedback. I know on the next couple of slides, Craig's going to be able to share with you our contact details to provide feedback, and also, really requesting you to provide any insights that you may have on future areas of opportunity that you see in your business that you'd like us to share as far as insights that could help your organization. So with that, I don't know, Craig, if we've gotten any questions at this point?
Yes, we had one question from Judy, and I'm trying to locate her question here. I didn't see it come through. She has an unanswered question. Okay, she should be able to unmute herself now and ask her question.
Craig, did she type her question in the chat box by any chance?
She did not. And Judy, if you could type your question in, as Steve aforementioned, we can get that question answered.
While we're waiting for, oh, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, while we're waiting for Judy, I was just going to say, as you'll see on the slide, really how to get started. We've got both myself and Craig's contact information on display, and in conjunction with Endeavour and the ImageTag team, we've got a promotion that's going to be happening from now until December 19th. You'll be able to get a 20% discount on any QuickTag solution purchased before December 19th. So this is something that, just for participating for today, that you can clearly take advantage of. But in the meantime, if you do have questions or anything you want to circle back on, or if you want a copy of the presentation, the ask would be to connect with myself and or Craig, and we'll definitely circle back with any additional details that you require from the webinar today.
Well, I don't appear to have any more questions.
Great.
Well, Deanna Davis has a question, but she has not typed it in. Deanna, if you could type your question in the chat box, we can get your question answered.
So, hey, guys, this is John, and while we're kind of waiting for folks to type their questions into the chat box, I'll answer a frequently asked question, which is, what does QuickTag cost? That's usually the first question when people see it. They generally love it, and then they immediately want to know, okay, well, what do I have to spend to get it? And of course, like anything else, it's going to vary depending upon how you use it, how many users you have, etc. So I'll just give you some, some averages. QuickTag can be used in the manner that I showed you today, where it's going to be a fully automated payable system with, the cloud-based OCR, multiple levels of approval, email notifications, and all that other good stuff that I showed today. On average, depending upon the size of your organization, it's probably going to run $30,000 at the low end, and it goes up from there. And again, a lot of it depends upon how many users you have in the system, just like most software programs. The more sophisticated your workflow, that can also affect the price. But just to kind of give you an idea, I would say most of our implementations run somewhere between $30,000 and $45,000 just by a range, and that's kind of on average. You can also use QuickTag purely as a capture system. So if you're not ready to take the plunge into workflow yet, because you just feel like your organization maybe won't embrace, the automated approach. If you remember from when I was inside of GP and I was capturing documents directly to transactions in GP, you can use QuickTag simply as a capture and retrieval mechanism directly from within GP as a start. So we have QuickTag is automatically embedded in over 75 transaction screens and or Zoom screens inside of GP. So whether it be in the payables module, the sales order processing module, purchase order processing module, general ledger, any of that stuff, you'll be able to tag and retrieve both paper and electronic documents to and from those transactions. A capture system starts at about $8,000. So if your organization is smaller, and again, you're not ready to embrace workflow just yet, you can start small, invest between $8,000 and say $12,000 on a basic capture system, get everybody accustomed to that level of automation, and then when you're ready, we can actually layer the workflow piece on top of it. So it's not an all or nothing proposition. You can go as fast or as slow as you want at the onset, and then as you want to embrace your embrace automation as you go, you can invest more incrementally, which is for a lot of organizations is more comfortable.
Okay, we have the questions. Judy asked the question, how does the system manage VAT taxes in Canada?
John, you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I kind of could tell from the hesitation in your voice you wanted me to run with that one. So QuickTag, the very next release, which is due out here literally in a matter of days, supports all manner of value-added tax, whether it be in Canada or other forms of taxation in different countries. So for your organization, if you're Canada only, we can actually capture the value-added tax field and then push that in whatever currency value you want into the payables voucher as I showed it today in GP. So basically the answer is yes, we work with that. We will also work with other forms of taxation. If you have a multinational organization and you've got offices in other countries, we'll support that as well. We also will support different types of date formats. So I know up in Canada, you'll put the day before the month. Here in the U.S., we put the month before the day. So we can support any of those different configurations around dates and addresses and stuff like that.
Great. And that answers two of Judy's questions, because the second one was, does the system work with multi-currency? And the answer of that is yes. Now, Marla's question was, how does the approval trail appear for audit purposes? And I think, John, the best way to do that is to actually make you back the presenter so you can actually show how the audit trail looks in a workflow transaction.
Yeah, let me kind of get back into QuickTag here, and once I do that, I will be able to show it.
Right, and while you're working on that, John, Judy had another question. Will it post invoices to different GP companies? The answer to that is absolutely yes. You can have as many GP companies as you'd like, and we can post them individually, because as you saw in the workflow process, John selected which company he wanted to work with.
Right.
And is there a place to put in descriptions in the invoice? There actually is in the workflow comments, but I also know that some customers like to use that field for description purposes, so it shows up as a description.
Right. So for companies that or customers that would want to use the description field, we can actually change the text where it says comments and change that to say description, and that way your users will know that that information is going to flow directly into the description field inside of the payables voucher in GP. In my demo environment, it said comments, and it was being used to communicate, again, downstream but we can easily make that description and solve that problem for you. So the other question was, how do you follow the what were the exact words they used? Not the workflow chain, but an audit trail.
Audit trail.
With words, right? Exactly.
Yes.
So can you see my screen, Craig?
Yes, I can.
Great. Then I'm assuming everyone else can see it. So what I've done is I've just logged into QuickTag as me. You can see up here logged in as John. I'm going into an area of QuickTag that's called the drawer section. Drawers are essentially the logical storage facility for all of the documents that are residing inside of the QuickTag system. And the drawers are going to be segmented by site. So if you've got multiple GP companies, all of those companies would be listed out here. In my demo environment, I'm working with Fabricam. And then I've got a list of all of the drawers related to that particular company. And I can also make any of these drawers a favorite. So if I go to My Favorites, you'll see Payables Transaction Entry. So let's go ahead and go into Payables Transaction Entry. Now, if you remember the couple of documents that I used in my demo, let's just go ahead and open here. So that document is going to show up here. Here's the invoice, and then here's the packing slip. Okay, so this is actually the storage place. This is the holding place for the documents that have been ultimately tagged to payables transaction entries inside of GP. So you can see the voucher number and all of the other data. Your question was, how do I know what the audit trail is? How do I know who did what and at what time? And the way that you do that, once you find the document that you want to visualize that information for, you just right-click, and you just say Workflow History. So what that's going to show is that the document was initially put into the system by Indexer. And you can see the time and the date stamp. If you remember, it then went to Department Manager for GL coding. It then went to the CFO for approval. And then I'm the one that actually entered it into the ERP system. So you can see the entire flow of who did what. And if there were any comments or descriptions left along the way, those would show up kind of in the middle of these little Post-it notes here. So that's the answer to the workflow history question. Again, you can look at that on an invoice-by-invoice basis. So if you're being audited and somebody wants to know who approved this, all you have to do is search for the invoice in your QuickTag system, pull it up, show workflow history, and then show your auditor exactly who approved it and the time and date that they approved it.
Great. Now, Deanna asked a question, John. How does this product work with GP purchase orders or the GP purchase order process?
Right. So there's a couple ways you can do that. One is that you can use QuickTag. You can set up a form for purchase requisitions. You can then run those purchase requisitions through a workflow, and then ultimately have those purchase requisitions become purchase orders inside of GP. So we will actually take the data from the purchase requisition, we will push it into the purchase order screen, creating a new PO inside of GP. You have a choice as to whether or not you want us to push just the header information, or whether you want us to push the line items. And you know, obviously, in most cases, people want to see line items as well. So we do have, in the latest version of our product, we do have the ability to add line item data. So basically, you just add as many lines as you need, just like you would if you were in the GP data entry screen for purchase orders. You add the information that you want into your line items, or you can even use an OCR solution to extract the data and populate it into your line so that you don't have to do the data entry yourself. When the invoice comes, you basically just, in most cases, if you have an approved PO, normally you're not going to route the invoice around for approval too, because you already have a promise to pay. So you would simply just match that match that invoice to your existing PO, tag it into the system, and then it would therefore be available either in GP using the additional menu, or in QuickTag either in the drawer or using the search facility. So that's kind of a quick and 45-second overview of how it would work. But we absolutely work with POs. The other use case is when an invoice comes in tied to a PO, and for some reason it doesn't match, because it's either being, maybe it was partially shipped, or maybe an error was made, we actually have what's called an exception workflow, where you can capture that document. Again, you can either upload it or you can scan it, whatever format that document is, and you can tell the system this is an exception, it's tied to this PO number, and then you can have the appropriate people review it, determine what the exception is, and what to do about it. So these are all excellent questions, and obviously we would want to do a little bit of a deeper dive with you to understand your particular needs and requirements, and then give you a better sense of how QuickTag would meet those needs and requirements. But just at a high level, for everyone who's left on the call, looks like there's about 20 or 30 people left. That's kind of how we work in that type of a use case.
We have one final question from Laura, and the question is, how does QuickTag support multiple documents emailed to the inbox, i.e. vendor includes both the invoice and a copy of the PO in their email, or if they send in multiple invoices in one attachment?
Yeah, so what you want to do is tell your vendor that ideally they would take all of the documents, all of the pages that would go together in one transaction and bundle that in a single PDF when they email it in. Because QuickTag is very good at separating documents into individual documents, but if they were to actually email in multiple attachments, QuickTag is going to, because of its automated straight-through processing type of an approach, QuickTag is going to think that that's actually multiple documents that are not related to each other. So you want to tell your vendor, hey, if you're going to send me an invoice and you're going to send a copy of the PO to go with it, that's great, but just put those together in one PDF before you send it. And that way it's all in one document.
Great. And that is our last question. And to all of our panelists and guests, thank you for your participation. And again, if there are additional questions, you always have the email address for myself and for Steve. And we look forward to working with you in the future. And we hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you so much again from both Steve Ewing from Endeavour, Craig Randall and John Michaels from ImageTag. This concludes our session, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.
Thanks, everybody.